Hi all and welcome to a new video upload. Today's video is going to be concentrating on 5 BetBot services that you might have been sleeping on and that have gone under the radar a little bit going into 2025. So these are options for your portfolio to look into for the new year, as I think they'll make a good amount of profit over the period ahead. The first service we're going to talk about is Leo, who has had probably the most volatility of any service on the bot in terms of it being a roller coaster ride. Had an absolutely fantastic start to his time on the bet bots and as a tipster, public tipster generally. He went 12 out of 12 profitable months on BloggerBet, which is why we signed him up to the bet bots. Had an ROI of 9% during that period, and in his first month on the bet bots, he made a profit of 18 points, which was the highest out of any service for that month. Had an incredible winning streak of 16 tips winning on the bounce, which really kind of highlighted how much quality he brings to the table when he's in form. He was very selective. It was 1 or 2 a day, and they were all winning, and a lot of them quite comfortably as well. That was how it begun. But then he did have a very difficult period between April and August, to be honest. After making profit in all of his first 5 months on the bet bots, from November to March, he had a bad losing period from April to August that a lot of members know about, where he did lose his composure, it's fair to say. Got into some bad habits of overstaking and losing his cool a bit. It was a difficult period for all. There was a lot of toxicity on his BloggerBet account, with a lot of messages which were what you would expect, but also not helpful to the situation, calling him rubbish and all sorts. And it's very difficult for a tipster to keep their heads, even though it's absolutely imperative that they do so. But it did lead to essentially all the profits that he made were wiped out, and a bit more than that, to be honest, approaching the new season, which started in October. You might have thought then that it would be an important start to the season and to hopefully get off on the right track. But Leo was incredibly unlucky in the October period. There were about 5 or 6 bets which you were looking at and you're wondering how they lost. Usually not covering the handicap by 1 or 2. And there were also a number of bets where the overs line might have been 15 above going into the last quarter, and suddenly had a completely dead final quarter and lost the bet, and it ended up being minus 11 units for October. But you could tell that the shape of the bets were good, and that you could tell he was being more solid. It was back to sort of 1 or 2 tips per day, maybe 3 maximum. And we're finally starting to see the rewards of that again. November was a profitable month after a slow start. And now he's on a run where towards the end of November and the start of December, as mentioned on the info channel, he's now won 18 of the last 22 tips, which is a really solid return. I think he's very aware of the mistakes he made during the period last year and the importance of keeping things mentally grounded and being very solid in the way that he approaches his tipping. And it does seem to be that he has taken the lessons on board. And from my communication with him and from a few other members' communication with him, I do feel more confident in his tips again. And I'm betting them all myself, and it's paying off quite nicely. So, and I know a lot of members might have built up points from his run between April to August, so it's a nice time to kind of get involved if you've already got credits, but also for new members that haven't tried out his service yet, because a lot of the bets are available on the Betfair exchange, and 100% are available at Pinnacle. The second service I'm going to talk about might sound like a strange one in theory for an under the radar service, but in reality, Bonz is going under the radar a bit in terms of subscription numbers compared to the results he's hauling in. And after a fantastic last 5 months where his service has really got back to kind of the mean regression from the earlier part of the year has stopped, and now he's starting to make the profits to take his tally now up to 268 points of profit since starting on the bet bots in January 2023, and an ROI of above 7%. So it's good for accounts because, there's not a huge amount of following on the bet straight away, so it means you can kind of blend in. Also, the higher limits on live betting tips generally means that they're better for accounts. There aren't many services that can compare being live bets compared to many Bet365 services on Twitter, which are pre-match in early markets and far more damaging to accounts. So I really think, despite Bonds being the top service on the bet bots in terms of overall profit, I still think there's a lot of people that would benefit from following him that aren't. It's also worth noting quite how good the form has been since August. So since August, there's been profit every month, above 10 points of profit in September, October, and November, and also the overall profit is 62 points and an ROI of 14%. So, and the new year's a good time to start with, volume in Australia. Bonds would be a great addition to anyone's portfolio with a Bet365 account. The third service I'm going to talk about is Finsports, with the main reason for being a bit under the radar is the fact that he's new to the platform and this is his second full month tipping. But it's been an absolutely superb start, where the results already are kind of lining up with what I was expecting from Robert. He's a professional bettor of 30 years and a betting tipster for 20. As you can see, he's been around for so long that he's got his own interviews on various betting website platforms. Before starting on the bet bots, he was building up his sample again on BloggerBet, where he's made 82 points of profit and a yield of 8%, all on Finsports. The great thing about his service as well is the fact that he's profitable at both Betfair Exchange and Pinnacle, so all his ice hockey bets have been going on the Betfair Exchange, which is where I'm following his tips, and I've been able to follow a couple of the ones were sent to Pinnacle only by accident, which were available to bet on the Betfair Exchange as well. So in reality, I'm already about 8-9 units up on his tips. It's nice to know with a tipster where they're seeing the value in his write-ups, and you can Robert has such a strong enthusiasm for betting generally that he can't help himself but to tell everyone where the value is and to provide good write-ups. He sends me almost all the logic behind all his tips, which is something I like doing myself with my own service to kind of get a feel of where the value is, and it shows how well he understands betting, for example, and how in the loop he is with his knowledge. For example, on a lot of the basket tips, he'll be telling me about how two of the Americans are missing from a side that the market hasn't adjusted for, or the fact that maybe an ice hockey team have played 4 matches in the last 10 days and they're likely to be exhausted for this one based on historical trends that he's seen. The good thing with a country like Finland is it is a smaller nation, and the betting markets aren't going to be as efficient in terms of there being the same level of knowledge and depth as there would be in UK markets, for example. So it does mean that someone with Robert's experience can really exploit that and extract great betting value from the tips that he's finding. Given the fact it's a cheap service at this point of just £5 a credit, I really would recommend it to anyone. The football season starts in January as well in terms of the cup tournaments, so there's going to be a bit of extra volume from the new year. So I'd predict sort of around 50 to 60 tips maybe from January till April, before maybe even higher volume in the football from that point onwards. So I feel like it's a really good time to sign up to this new service, which the fourth tipster I'm going to talk about is Houdini's service. Has had a number of drawdowns, but also some absolutely incredible months. We've had a couple of months where the loss has been above 30 points in April and in November, but he's also had four 20 plus profit months in December, I think in October, February, and March, with an incredible 70 points of profit in February, which is one of the best months we've ever had on the BetBots to date. It has been a difficult start to the season, with minus 40 points to start in October and November, but you can tell Houdini's starting to find his range now. We've had his last two betting days have been plus 16 and plus 8, so a 24-point upswing. And when you consider how well he started the first 3 months of 2024 with 88 points overall during that period, I think it would be a really good service to start in that period of the new year. All the forms are a bit easier to read from his perspective. So yeah, overall he's made 45 points of profit on the BetBots. The one thing I would say with his services, it is high volume, so you do need to be quite an active bettor to follow his tips. And the final service that I feel is undersubscribed at present is Wrong Odds Racing, run by Kieran. A superb service in terms of the amount of information you get regarding the tips. A notification in the morning about when tips are likely, if Kieran's delayed for any reason. He also has his own email service, which is worth plugging. He gives a lot of feedback about all his various systems, how they work, how his betting processes generally kind of come about, and make sure to check that out, or some of the YouTube videos he's linked in the past if wanting some insights into how much experience he now has as a bettor. In terms of his own service, he's made 39 points of profit in terms of all-time stats since starting on the BetBots, a ROI of 6% at Betfair start price. But the thing to also note is the recent form has been really strong, with 4 of the last 5 months being profitable. And if we look at the overall stats since August, he's made 55 points of profit and an ROI of 24%, which is, really strong. Another thing that's worth mentioning with Kieran's war service generally is that in the kind of April and May period where there was the changing from kind of the jump season to the flat season, and it's hard to find volume for horse racing tips at that point, he was including some of his other system bets, which unfortunately didn't go to plan as well, with that period kind of equating to a loss, which Kieran acknowledged, and he knows how he would do things differently in this period between kind of February and April time. But what that does mean is that the underlying stats of war are even stronger than what is stated in the overall results. The ROI for war itself is probably likely to be closer to 10%, and with the knowledge that Kieran now has regarding how to, to mainly be betting the war system ones only, the results are likely to be even stronger next year. And I really believe it's going to be a great service to follow, especially given that caveat that all the bets are available at Betfair start price, which also makes the whole process of betting and catching the prices a non-issue, and very simple to follow. So yeah, that's all the 5 services that I really think are under the radar a little bit going into 2025, but really deserve consideration in terms of adding to your betting portfolio. I would be remiss to not mention the fact that my own service my service is never going to be under the radar, but it's obviously with a big loss from last year, it does make it an interesting 2025 ahead. I've covered in various videos my own thoughts regarding my own betting and why I really feel in the future it can be different. So I'm excited to get back into the tennis in January and get back into the swing of things with my own betting as well. So this will be my last video before the new year. So wishing everyone a great festive period and a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. So cheers, guys.